we are already taking advantage of a lot of the pre-built helper functionalities Django gives us when it comes to working with forms. We are using the built-in validation helper here, but what we're not doing is showing the user errors that might have been generated. And we're not doing this because if we don't make it into this isValid block, we always generate a brand new form and render that with our template. And that will be a brand new form without any data from the old form. What we want to do instead is use our validated form, on which we called isValid, and render that instead if it is not valid. Now, to achieve this, we simply have to add an else block here to this first if statement, where we check if the request method is post. And if it's not post, then we'll create a new empty form. By doing that, we will always end with rendering if we have a post request but are not valid, or we have a get request, but we only create a new empty form if we have a get request. If we have an invalid post request, so a post request with invalid data, then we'll make it into this part of the if statement. We're going to fill this form class with the submitted data. We're then going to validate it. And if it's invalid, we'll not make it in here, but instead move to this line. But the form we pass to the template now is the validated form. And we can see the result if we save this and now try to submit an empty form again. For that, let me remove required here and clear this. And if I now submit this, now I get the same form again, but I get this nice error message being shown here. Now, by the way, we will of course be able to work on the styling. We can add our own CSS still. I'm not caring about styling here because I really want to focus on the core form functionalities Django offers us. But we are going to add some styling later. So now we see that the form that was rendered contains an unordered list right above the input below the label for which the error was shown. And that list then actually lists all the error messages that were thrown, which of course is very convenient and useful because this then automatically gives us some predefined error messages, which we then also show to the users. In addition, any data which might have been entered into this form already by the user would not be lost. Of course, here it's an empty form, so no data was entered, no data is saved. But if this would be a bigger form, where a couple of fields have already been filled out, and then validation for some other fields failed, in such cases, when this form is being presented again with those validation errors, any previous input by the user would have been saved and would have been presented again as well, so that we provide the best possible experience to our user and we don't force users to re-enter everything. So that's another neat feature. We get these validation errors and any previously entered data would also be saved and would have been pre-populated into that form, thanks to us using this Django form and passing in the data received by the user before rendering this template again. But speaking of predefined, there are a couple of predefined behaviors here, for example, the label text or the error messages, which we might want to overwrite. And thankfully we can do that.